This hangout is the summary of our theme for the week. How long the discussion continues each week after the summary, and also on alternating Tuesdays and Thursdays, as you can see. You're welcome to join us and bring your questions. And now here's our summary, and ta-ra. Is joy really number one? And if so, how do you get there? Let's examine these questions, and because there's simply no way to answer them unless we start from the fundamentals of who you are, let's begin there. As we talk here today about what we would call the absolute you, see if you can, just for a short time, allow your ideas about yourself to expand beyond the now version of you in the now version of your story. And as we'll be discussing today, those two things, you and your story, are really one and the same thing. Come sit on the crescent moon with us for a while, and let's contemplate infinity. Here we go. You are all that is experiencing itself. You are a non-physical, timeless, spaceless consciousness. Your desires and intentions create you out of the collective consciousness. You are an always connected, and we'll come back to that shortly, part of that source, interacting with other parts of that source. As you shift and flow and interact, you have experiences. Those experiences lead to new choices and new desires, and so the evolution continues. This defines the shape of your consciousness and the matching you experience and the context around you, by which we mean it creates the physical and non-physical, you and your worlds. You call that the law of attraction. Rachel last week pointed this one to an image that's another simple way of thinking of these infinite absolutes. It's from Anna Goldstein, and it's a sequence called Perspective 101. It goes like this. Something happens. 2, it means nothing. 3, we make up a story about what it means. 4, the story we make up creates our reality. It creates our world. It creates what's possible and what's not possible. We say, Amen. This is the sequence that is the endless, timeless, repeating story of you, before your now story and in and beyond your now story. Something happens. It means nothing. You make up a story about what it means. And the story you make up creates your reality. It creates your world. It creates what's possible and what's not possible. And so it goes on and on. From Bashar. In a theatre that shows many plays, there may be some props backstage that are frequently used for several different plays. For each play, that prop has a special meaning. But outside of that play, the prop has no innate, intrinsic, built-in meaning. All the events that you experience as happening in your life are neutral props. Each event you experience has no innate, intrinsic, built-in meaning. And from this blank slate, you get to assign any significance or meaning you wish for each event you experience. As we often say, what you believe becomes, and you are the one who chooses, without limit, what to believe. Now let's look at that always connected piece of which we spoke, because here's where your feelings come into the picture. When that connection is strong, you feel that in every fiber of your being. You feel good. You feel fantastic. You feel ecstatic. You're in sync with the universe. You're moving in the direction of your desires. You're being and experiencing That's what you created yourself to be and experience. But sometimes you find yourself heading in the opposite direction. You can never break your connection to Source, but you can push against it. That's what you experience as negative emotion. That's when you feel bad. So here's the simple and absolutely fundamental truth of it. If you're feeling good, you're being and doing what you created yourself to be and do, and heading strongly in the direction of your desires. And those, once again, all of those mean exactly the same thing. You choose your desires and intentions, even as your desires and intentions define who you are. You are exquisitely one with your desires. You exist because of them. You are creatures of desire, eternally at choice in all things, trying this and that, choosing new worlds to create and play within. Are you starting to see why we're always going on and on about the importance of feeling good? You could say that your emotions are a byproduct of your choices. You could say, therefore, that joy is not number one, that joy is just the byproduct of doing what you came here to do. And we won't disagree with you. We would just say that those things are inseparable. You can't experience joy unless you're heading towards what you've created yourself to be and do. And you can't be and do that unless you're feeling good. You're all joy seekers. Everything you do is done because you think it will make you happier. And there's not one of you will persist with something or anything for 1 second beyond the time you believe that that is true. Now, if we climb down from our perch on the moon and come at this from a worldly perspective, we know that for some of you, it looks as though we are being superficial. Surely you say there must be some more lofty and divine purpose to all of this that I need to discover, and that cannot be just my own self-gratification. What about those selfless people that put their own needs aside and become shining examples of serving others for the greater good of mankind? Well, we would say that's one world thinking. You're thinking of that world as out there, as something external to you, as something you have to deal with, as something you have to be compassionate about. Of course, there's nobody on the planet who doesn't feel good about caring and being caring and compassionate. But we say, once you understand that the world is not out there at all, once you wrapped your mind around the idea that it's merely a reflection of you, then what used to seem important and reasonable and responsible and logical gets turned on its head. Changing something in that world is not simply a matter of doing the right thing and supporting just causes. Begin to recognize that the starting point for changing anything about anyone is making a new belief choice, creating something new in you, and allowing a new matching version of everybody and everything to wrap itself around you. Of course, at any point in time, always do what feels good. But the greatest compassion you can show for anybody is to know that you can create things differently and then choose to believe things about you and them and the world that make your heart sing, that bring great joy to you. And then watch what shows up. From Bentinho Massaro, if you're not happy, you're not helping. From Bashar, being yourself is how you perform the best service to everyone else. We say you cannot intersect with the happy, connected versions of others until you step into the happy, connected version of you. So when you get down to it, joy is number one. And the way you experience that is to get into alignment with your desires, recognizing that when you settle comfortably and confidently into the role of being the creator you came here to be, you will soar. And everything and everyone around you will be soaring right along with you. It must. It can do nothing else. From Abraham last week came the same thought, just expressed a little differently. People say the joy is in the journey, but they really understand what they are saying. You are in this focused space-time reality with goals and objectives that call you, because as you identify a desire, it literally summons life through you. Life summoning through you is what it's all about. It's not the completion of anything. In other words, it's not about manifestation. It's always about, what do I want to create now? And now is a different story than then. You are always at choice. And now we move to our longer discussion and your questions.